Dieth just got accepted to be a nominee
Yeah,
in the upcoming Grammys, which is
yeah.
super awesome for best rock and metal performance. What was your reaction to this news?
Well, I was excited when because we started talking about it back when the album was coming out this summer, right? And Grammy submissions, and there's the big Grammy, of course, which we got accepted into the voting for the nomination. And the tracks, obviously, the metal tracks kind of obvious, right? Because being a metal band, but I think the one that I'm super excited about is, and probably the most impossible to win, is the best rock, because look, it's I've never been in that category before. I've never had anything even submitted into that category, I don't think, and um and it's the song I sing, it's the ballad, right? So just for that alone, just to even have been accepted into the big boys club, I'm good. You know what I mean? And I mean, the thing is when there's a Foo Fighters record out, just kiss that category goodbye, and like this year at Best Metal, there's a Metallica record out, just kiss it goodbye, right? So the chances of winning, just they're almost completely off the plate, you know what I mean? But to be accepted back in, because look, dude, it's the gold standard, right? And it's the Oscars for music, and so to have written a record with performances that get recognized and accepted and sort of applauded by the big boys, sometimes that's really all you need. You know what I mean? I got a Grammy up here, it's awesome, but the win is nice for sure, but just to even be in the discussion is on this in this case awesome.
And it's, as a fan, super awesome to see. And I know it's like right now, you're trying to look forward, you're trying to do your own thing. And this must like
Yeah.
really reassure your confidence and like, I'm doing the right thing. And this is the future.
You said it best, and I've had just overwhelming, really unanimous support, for that, just going, man, keep going, brother, and because look, it's rock and roll. I was in one of these tumultuous, certainly very storied bands for most of my career. You know, how could you expect it to be anything else? It's like being in the Sex Pistols, and so the reality of it is now it comes to this time of division, and I was here before 20 years ago when the group was disbanded, and I had F5 and some things that I was working on, but it wasn't my time yet to really kind of be out on my own. I feel like now it is. Now I went back to Megadeth obviously for 11 years, a lot of great stuff, including that Grammy win. But I feel like there's just a lot that I never got to say, and that's fine. Look, groups are what groups are. You go along to get along. I feel like now is a moment in time. I've written a lot of music. I've partnered with a lot of different people. Just got Soto, the Dieth guys, me and Jeff Young are back together working on stuff. Chris Poland, so there's not only the brotherhood of the past family tree, but there's now new forks and branches to extending and widening that family tree into some other stuff. And for me, it's always just, first of all, do I like the people and do I like the music? That's always the first thing. It's kind of back to that, when we all got started in this. Remember when we all thought, God, wouldn't it be great to be in a band? We'll take on the world. We'll all be best friends. And and then you get into the, you work in radio, same for you, right? You get into the business of music and you realize, yeah, it's not about that at all. This is a job, and, do your job, to get your check, and playing the bass and being in the band is the same thing, man. It's like, do your job, make the biscuits. And I hate that mindset. I've never used that dirty 4-letter word called work, in this, I use the other one, play, let's go play music. Me and Jeff Young were just on the phone this morning and talking about some stuff, and we get each other excited. It's like, yeah, man, like, we didn't pick up our guitars to have to fucking go to the factory and go to work. We picked up our guitars to do this, get up with our
Yeah.
friends, you, and sit here and talk about music all day. Let's do that. That's more fun.
Yeah, you guys have a pretty awesome gig. I can't lie. And a
You
lot of
know,
people forget the music business is a business,
it is.
you know?
Well, and it isn't even just music, it's entertainment, right? It's the entertainment business, right? So when you get on that stage, remember me and Kerry King talked about this, it's like, and he said it, he goes, if you don't look and are, if you're not different, you don't deserve to be on that stage. Says the man with the devil painted on his head. And I love that. I mean, me and Kerry grew up in the business together, as friends in our respective bands and stuff. And it's great to, he gets it, you know what I mean? And that is true. It is what it is, man. It isn't just about the songs. It's about the stories we tell in the songs. Do these stories connect? You know, it's funny. I just saw Jelly Roll and,
Oh, nice.
with Eric Church the other day of all things. A friend called me, works for Eric Church. I went out and and I kind of started playing rock and roll at country because I grew up in a farm in Minnesota and everybody's listening to country and western, and then Kiss showed up. I'm like, finally a path forward, and I remember this farmer friend of mine, we were at the Armory in Jackson and there's some country band playing, and it's everybody's drinking and doing what they do, and I was a teenager, and he says to me, he goes, just think you could be down there tonight playing for $50. And I say, you know what, fuck that, I'll play rock and roll for free because I ain't playing country, and that was just, it was, the reason it's funny because country's whatever, it's what all the parents liked, right? So you're not gonna do what your parents do. Kiss, our parents hated Kiss, so I'm gonna go with Kiss. That's the obvious choice. That's just how we are growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so being a fan of rock and roll, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and to get out of bed and know you and I got a conversation here today, it's good reason to get out of bed. Let's go, do a little practicing here today, work on some tunes for some stuff coming up, and all that kind of stuff. But back to the Jelly Roll thing, there's a great storyteller, man. I heard his song on the radio when I was in Europe this summer, and I went, God, who is this guy? What is this? I didn't know if this was like kind of some Shine Down or Blackstone Cherry. Is this a band? What is this? And then I learn more about him and I get to see him perform. I'm like, yeah, this guy's cool, man. This guy's like a modern day Johnny Cash or something, So I like guys that's, connect and tell a story. And I think, kind of full circle back to the Dieth Grammy thing, that's what we tried to do with our song. Let's tell stories, man. Let's tell stories that are really personal to us. They're heartfelt. They mean something. We're not just making shit up. It's a real, kind of lay it all out there. And, I think those are the songs apparently that get invited to the Grammy dance, things that connect with people.
100%, man. And that's amazing to hear. And I love, I think that's such a funny fact about yourself that you grew up on a farm, especially what you ended up doing as a career.
Right.
Did you have that moment? Because I know a lot of artists and bands have that, like going to the record store, seeing that Motorhead cover and be like, what is this? Like,
Sure.
what was your introduction to the
Totally,
genre?
dude. Yeah, I mean, look, Kiss Destroyer. I mean, that was the first record. I mean, look, I had, me and my brother rode the school bus for like an hour every morning. We get picked up at 7:15 and we get dropped off at school at 8:15. So I had an hour on the school bus.
Wow.
And for a couple of years or two, there was a bus driver that would listen to WLSAM, which is a big station out of Chicago, and it would broadcast over to where I was in rural South Central Minnesota. And so I heard, I mean, man, as soon as I heard Ballroom Blitz, it was like, I'm in. Whoever this is, I'm in, right? So it started with Sweet. I got to be honest with you. Wow. Sweet, and then Bachman Turner Overdrive. We had a farmhand who had the Not Fragile album on 8-track, and we had nice John Deere equipment, so I'd always want to go ride with him, I wasn't up for farm work, but driving the tractor was okay because they were nice. I mean, they were like driving a Mercedes down the field. They were nice. They had 8 tracks, so they could listen. And so I listened to rock, the BTO. I remember listening. I got to know the Ramones, the Rocket to Russia. So these are the things that I grew up with. And then Kiss Destroyer, like I heard Shout It Out Loud on the radio, and it was in jukeboxes around the area. We go out to dinner or something, and so then I saw Kiss play on the Paul Lynde Halloween special, which I've seen. It's on YouTube. If you go check it out, dude, it's awesome. I mean, it's like, you see that when you're 12 years old, you're just like, yeah, I don't want to be a fireman or a doctor anymore. Now I want to go do that. So
Yeah.
that's what it was, and for whatever reason, the good Lord, put some musical talent in me and gave me the hunch that I should play the bass guitar of all freaking instruments. I was playing tenor sax in the orchestra band as a kid, and I didn't like it, And then, a lot of people talk about their moment with the Beatles, well, mine was Kiss. They were my Beatles, So that's the thing that I just really got on board with, and they were my everything, and everything we learned about cool shit in rock and roll came from them. And then after that, Van Halen, and then Judas Priest and Boston, and then Motorhead, and, Def Leppard, and all through the stuff, And then by the time I got to California in '83, this other scene was taken off. The US Festival had just happened, which was huge. On the Rock and Roll Day that had Van Halen, Judas Priest, Scorpions, Motley, and Quiet Riot were the early bands of the day, and they were, making noise on MTV. And so kids like me in the Midwest, as I was getting ready for my pilgrimage out to California to start my career, they were the ones making some noise, and it was cool. And then when I get there, I meet Dave, and then I learn about Metallica, and Yngwie had just gotten there and was playing in Steeler with Ron Keel, and Loudness had just come over. I remember seeing Loudness. I think Loudness was the headliner, and Steeler with Yngwie opened for them at the
Wow.
country club. So it was just a great moment, And it's funny, it's all kind of divinely led, meaning just, follow your heart, when my gut at 16 told me go to California, I just followed it, and I just stayed the course, and I played in all my bands. We gigged and worked the circuit in the area in the Midwest. And I was really young, obviously. So I had an older sound man guy who he just died actually a month ago or so. But he was like our hero, he'd co-sign. He was like 20 or 21. So he'd get us into the bars and the clubs so we could gig and play. And he'd sort of sign the waiver. All right, I'll be the guardian for these kids, and he'd let us sneak a few beers and have some fun, once in a while. But he was a rocker, man, and he was kind of the band big brother, that helped me get into the thing, and so I could have my chops together. So by the time I got to California, look, I'd done my homework. I'd been in the trenches back in the Midwest for what that was
Taz
worth.
as well.
Yeah, what's that? Taz? Yeah,
Taz,
Taz.
yeah.
Like Taz, and then it became Killers, right after Iron Maiden. That's why when bands name themselves after Megadeth songs like Darkest Hour, these tribute bands like Hair 18. I mean, I get it, dude. I was in one of those, And we were with Killers and Taz. We were trying to make our way, but there's nothing cooking in southwestern Minnesota. You know what I mean? So I had to get to where the action is, And today it's a different day because obviously with the internet, you can make noise, on the internet and get people to come to you. But, in my day, we had to move to where the action was. And in my day, that was LA, so that's.
Bay Area, yeah.
Well, yeah. And it's funny, the Bay Area, as I would learn with Dave and Metallica, they moved there to get Cliff Burton in the band. And, how ironic because, the Bay Area, Exodus was really the band up there. And as you watch like Murder in the Front Row, you really realize Exodus were the star of the show, to so much that they got their guitar player, Kirk Hammett, in the band in Metallica, So Exodus was really the band making the noise. And even when we went up there and debuted Megadeth, when Kerry King played with us, once Kerry saw Exodus, that totally changed his arc of what he would then do with Slayer,
Wow.
I mean, he always told me, he goes, Tom Hunting's my favorite drummer, So I kind of always had this feeling like I don't, Dave Lombardo's Lombardo. He doesn't need,
Yeah.
he doesn't need crafting and sculpting. He's fucking Dave Lombardo, you know what I mean? But I always felt like Kerry kind of took that Tom Hunting Exodus, that was sort of the footprint to take back to LA. And, it was interesting that, look, Metallica moved there. Suddenly they're now a big fish in a different pond. In LA, if you're Metallica, you're just another band amongst a gazillion other bands, So it's funny that they're, Lars moving the band up to the Bay Area. That was genius, right? Because suddenly
Yeah.
they're like something cool and special up in a town that didn't have anything like that, So, and then from there, the Bay Area thrash scene thrived, and so it's funny how just one or two moves on the chessboard can change the whole game.
It really is. I'd love to know. So you left when you were like 16. What was your introduction to thrash metal?
Well, so 16, I had the hunch. My parents made me finish school. I went up and I told them
Oh.
at 16. I said, "Hey, I'm moving to California tomorrow." They're like, "Yeah, slow down there, little fighter. You're finishing school." Thank God they did. I'm glad I got a high school degree because then later in life I'd go to college and do adulting, adult stuff. Um, but yeah, so at 18, I mean, literally 5 days after high school, me and some buddies moved to LA, and Thrash. It's funny, I think it was maybe Malcolm Dome. I think he's in the Murder in the Front Row movie. I point because I have the book over here. That's why I'm pointing over this way. But I think in the film, some journalists dubbed, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, this new scene, Anthrax, Overkill, Exodus, Testament, this new scene, they called it thrash metal. And really thrash was kind of like the skaters in Venice Beach, and skating was a big part of that scene, and that's suicidal tendencies and all this stuff, so there's kind of this punk, the thrashers were the skaters, right? So this kind of got dubbed to be our music, and sort of dubbed by a journalist, not by us, us musicians
Interesting.
didn't come up with, yeah, we didn't come up with that name, so, my introduction to it. I mean, look, my first introduction to Metallica was Dave playing the No Life Till Leather demo, which I thought was fucking awesome, man. I mean, it was dark, it was fast, it was unhinged. It was, and again, we'd sit around and Dave had some Diamond Head records. Of course, I knew of Motorhead, I knew of Saxon. We'd listen to, I'd not heard Accept, so like Restless and Wild, Fast as a Shark, this kind of stuff, right? So, which was great, I mean, the Accept records sounded so good. They had a great production to them, and kind of
Yeah.
to me stood a little above the rest of them, and that's one thing I always liked about Metallica records. They always sounded good, Lars always took the time to get great drum tone. And I guess when you're the boss and the leader, you can do that. You know what I mean? So he'd always get great. And of course, we all knew of Maiden and this kind of stuff. But, Motorhead were kind of the next ones coming up. And I remember Dave telling me, he said, Lars wanted to be America's Motorhead. That was kind of the initial vision, and it was, Motor Breath. What is this? Whiplash. There's a song because we played with Dieth. We played We Are the Road Crew. We played only like once just to kind of have a bonus
Nice.
track to fill some time. And they'd make me sing this shit. Like I'm not even the singer. Suddenly now I'm the singer, right? So
Apparently, yeah.
I guess so. I guess they saw something in me that I did not. So we played Turn Up the Night, Mob Rules. And I'm able
Awesome.
to sing fucking Ronnie Dio. Fortunately, we're tuned down to C so I can sing it. It's in my sort of baritone range. But, as I'm going through these lyrics, I see, Metallica totally nicked. There's a lyric um, in We Are the Road Crew. They totally grabbed for Whiplash. The driving like a maniac, no, to hell and back is the Motorhead lyric,
Oh
right? And they
yeah.
totally clipped that, driving like a maniac, Whiplash, right? So that's how close to it that it was, and they weren't plagiarizing; they're just borrowing from their favorite artist. You know what I mean? So shit
You
happens,
find that out all the time, I feel, especially now
Totally.
with the internet. People saying, "Hey, this sounds like this." Even the whole thing with the Four Horsemen, how there's like that Leonard Skinner lick in it
Well,
that Dave
okay,
had.
and again, I'm paraphrasing what was told to me. So Dave told me Lars wanted like a Skinner, like a Sweet Home Alabama part. Dave said he just kind of farted that out, sort of almost as a, I don't know if it was a joke or just kind of played it. And Lars like, yeah, that's the part. And they kept it, so that's how that
Now
ended
it's
up
on
in
the
the.
record.
Now it's on the record, yeah. So David Ellefson said, so
Yeah, well, since we're talking about the mega years, I do want to talk about some of the singers you guys auditioned. Johnny Cyrus of Agent Steel
yeah.
was supposed to be the singer.
Well, we auditioned all these guys. So Johnny Cyrus, yeah. Who else do you have on your list? Remind me, because there
Oh,
was there was a
I the the guy from Diamond Head, I believe, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, that never. I mean, he joined us on Clash of the Titans when we played at Wembley. He came up and sang "It's Electric" with us because Dave was a fan of his. Sean Harris. But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think
Sean
that was
Harris.
meant to be. There's this. Excuse me. Remember, there's this one kind of Billy Idol looking British guy that we auditioned and say, yeah, this is so not the. This is not. I don't even think he made it to the rehearsal room. We just went over to his house in Van Nuys or his apartment. Like, yeah, this is the guy. And then these other guys would come in, cool guys, they were all like well coiffed in their scarves and they look the part, but you're like, yeah, this ain't the guy. And that's like when Kerry King came in, because Jim Durkin from Dark Angel was kind of jamming with us a little bit. And he was really young, and his chops just weren't quite there, And of course, he'd go on to do great things with Dark Angel, and we all love Jim, God rest his soul. But it's funny, when Kerry came in, he was my age, so he was kind of in the right age group. His skills were a little more polished, and he really got Dave. He saw Dave play with Saxon at the Whiskey or something when Metallica opened for him, and I mean, Kerry said it. He goes, look, that changed his life. It changed his musical arc of his whole career and his guitar playing. And so he loved it. He loved being in a band with Dave, and he could just recite these riffs right back. Dave would show him something and he'd fucking play it right back. I was like, Jesus, man, like this
Damn.
was cool, because like with my bass playing, look, we created a sound, we created a style, as bands should. Bands create something together, It's you create and carve out sort of a path forward, and for me, look, I came into town, teed up, ready to go. My chops were good. My musical sensibilities were good. I studied, I practiced. My gear was together. My chops were good. I had a good head on my shoulders to do it. So, it was kind of like, getting with Dave is like, okay, this is the direction, So, and that's what we did. So it was fun to be part of the next thing. That was exciting. That was definitely cool. So, but yeah, I mean, look, at one point, another singer flaked out a little. I think it was New Year's Eve of 1983. We were down at Curly Joe's Studio, which is this brewery downtown off of I-5. I drive by it all the time now when I go to Chris Poland's rehearsal place. I drive by. On the left is General Hospital. If you come from the north, from Burbank, right, on the left is General Hospital. On the right is the brewery. And I look at it and go, man, that's where we rehearsed all those early years with Lee
Wow.
Roush, when Kerry King came in. And Jim Durkin was playing with us when we were auditioning all these singers. And now with that, on New Year's, Dave just literally takes fucking a sheet of the lyrics and just tapes it up onto like a mic stand, or pins it up there somehow. And we play the song and he sings it. And I was the one that I go, dude, come on. Like, that was fucking great, And he's like, really? I said, dude, said, you're writing the lyrics. Who's going to sing these songs better than you? So, it sort of forced him to be the singer, and he was kind of,
Yeah.
I don't think it's funny. His first first thing he said was, well, splitting the money with four guys is better than five, just you're being silly,
Yeah.
the jokester that he would be, but it was funny.
Stereotypical.
I could tell he's like, okay, if he's got a sense of humor about it, he'd probably get his mind around it. And then that changed it, man. And it was that then we became a four piece, So, and it was like, all right, dude, you're singing. And, and then to sing and play is kind of the Geddy Lee thing, because the stuff's pretty intense, but he was good at it, man. He was able to, it's this deal, where you're, doing two different skills,
Yeah.
so it was, he did it, so that was that.
Yeah,
Singer
man.
settled,
Yep, that was figured out. Very interesting to hear. I'd love to know. So, co-founded one of the most important bands of all of metal. The 90s was a really rough era for the genre, but at least we got, in my opinion, the greatest thrash metal record of all time, Rust in Peace. I'd love to know what you remember about the writing and recording process of that record, as well as where was everyone creatively during the making of that album.
Well, for Megadeth, the first 5 years of the 90s were awesome. I mean, that was when we, got all this gold and platinum and life was great, right? I mean, we really had a big upswing coming off of Rust in Peace, going into Countdown, even Euthanasia and Cryptic even.
Great
But you're
records.
right. Then, the Seattle thing just completely changed the fucking course of the earth, you know. So as a you know, a kind of a group of bands will do, you know. But yeah, you look, rest in peace. Look, we were a mess, you know. We were junkies. We were a mess. You know, it was started out as me, Dave, Chuck, and Jeff, and then it was me, Dave, and Chuck, and then it was me and Dave, and then we got Nick Menz in the band, and then at least it was me, Dave, and Nick, and then we got a good manager. Ron Lafede came in. He'd wanted to manage us for a few years, and I finally sat down with Dave. I said, look, I think he's the best guy for the job. And Ron would come over as we're smoking crack and doing heroin and doing drugs. He'd sit patiently in the apartment with us and hear us out. And, you know, and he was just very patient, you know, and he studied under Tim Collins, who was managing Aerosmith, you know, who got Aerosmith sober, you know, just working with him on how to do this. How do I get these guys cleaned up? I mean, fuck, they're at Capitol Records. The whole world is ready for them. It's theirs to have. And he told us that. He goes, listen, guys, it's all yours to have, but you got to get clean, you know. And so, and of course, most of that pressure was on Dave, you know, being the leader and the singer and stuff. So, you know, and I needed to get clean too, you know, and to support. So we all had to do it together, and that's how it happened, you know. So we got 89 was writing of the record plus trying to get clean, somehow make a path forward. And by early 90, we were all finally on the right path. Marty came into the band, of course. And, you know, and then to record the record, you know, was sort of the transition. I mean, I was like maybe a month sober when I was recording the bass, you know, and when you're coming clean off heroin and that shit, man, your fingers hurt, your body hurts, you just feel like shit. And I'd sort of detoxed since like November, so I was kind of getting clean. I wasn't totally coming fresh off of a, you know, heroin Jones, but you know, getting clean. And I remember sitting in my couch in my apartment in Studio City, and I was going, I hit my bass, and, you know, I was like, no, fuck, do I even want to do this anymore? And this immediate thought came right after it. Said, you know, you started playing when you were a kid and you loved it, and the drugs just got in the way. And it's funny, you know, how these little sort of, you know, again, these little divine sprinkles come into your mind and pass through your heart and inspire you. And I went, yeah, that's right. I didn't get this to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was all, you know, that was just some lie that we were all sold, you know, that's all bullshit, you know? So, you know, that was the old, you know, adage from the 70s and the 80s and shit. I was like, yeah, that's all a lie. That's bullshit. So I was like, yeah, let's get going, you know? So, yeah, you know, we turned that corner, and as we all, you know, got clean and stayed clean together, and Marty and Nick weren't, you know, druggies. They were fine. But you know, that's what got us in the studio and made the record, and you know, turned up the tempos and turned up the ferocious nature of it. And so we wrote the album high and recorded it sober. Seemed to work.
Hell yeah.
If you could do that with every album, you probably would, but you know, chances of getting clean again are probably zero. So why go back there, you know?
The duality.
Yeah. Hey, brother, I got to jump on another interview right after this. So
yeah, no worries, man.
One more question.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut it short.
No worries at all. Let's just circle back to Dieth.
Sure.
What was the writing and recording process of To Hell and Back?
So, you know, it's funny. I was sent in the Hall of the Hanging Serpent first back in probably January of 2022. I was introduced to Guilherme on email from a mutual friend, and he sent the tune over. I went in the studio here. I played bass on it. I liked it. It was very cool. It was clever riffing. And then I heard the final track. I was literally outside here on my patio by the pool, and Guilherme called, and we're talking, and he goes, man, this sounds great, and we should do some more. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? You know, because people are always like, oh, David Ellefson's in 20 bands, and And it's like, you know, listen, you know, I've been in bands my whole life, right? A couple of them have actually been successful. One in particular, right? Straight to the top. But, you know, Metal Legions, you know, I've played with Cavalera's and, you know, Max and Al from Ministry. You know, I'm a musician, right? We make music. And, you know, it's like they're all projects. You know, is this a project or a band? Well, I tell you what, if it sells records and people want to come and see it and buy a ticket, it becomes a real, you know. If it isn't, then it's just a moment you had, you made some music together, you move on, you know. And you know, it's just that simple. I mean, it's, you know, I think people gets, into this, is this how committed are you? I'm like, I'm as fucking committed as you're willing to support it. That's that. I mean, of course I'm committed to the music, that otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But after you put the music out, it's kind of out of your hands, what's going to happen with it. Same with Dieth. So when Guillermo said, hey, let's write some more, I said, sure, let's do it. And, one day we were just kind of bored in the summer, and we said, you know what, let's put that song up on my Facebook. Let's put it on YouTube and we'll pop it out. And all of a sudden it blew up. I mean, we had huge hits. Napalm came to the table, and it's like, this is how this works, right? When someone's interested in what you're doing, you stay committed to it, and, that's how it is. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I put out a couple of great F5 records that just didn't really get the traction. So just set it to the side. You go on to the next one, and that's, look, if Megadeth had never gotten any traction, I would have moved off onto the next one. I mean, that's just how life is. Right. So, so this one got traction, and we stayed the course. We committed to it for this album cycle. And now we're, making the plans for the next one. And, so having a label like Napalm and, getting these Grammy acceptance and all this stuff. I mean, look, these are the things that keep the wind in the sails. And we've been writing now for the last couple of months since we've been off the road. And so, we're looking forward to the next one now, And well, look, we got the show coming up with Metal Allegiance at NAMM, which is great. That's kind of our first American footprint here.
Exciting.
'Cause that's the thing, is how do we get the band over here? I mean, look, it's easy for me to fly to Poland and go over there because I'm just one dude. And look, being an American, it's a lot easier to travel the world. The American passport gets you a lot of places that other people from other countries, they got to deal with work visas. It's very problematic, as we're now learning, even coming over to do NAMM. You got to get ahead of this shit months ahead. There's a lot of logistics and immigration issues, and so I can move around the world much easier, and it's easier for me to just kind of go jump into something over there with these guys. And but this NAMM thing will be great. I'm really excited that we finally get to bring it here. I'm certainly stoked to be, Metal Allegiance, our 10-year anniversary. So it's all good. NAMM's back. We got the Ellefson coffee booth that's going to be there. We just announced that today.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So, play some rock and roll, have some coffee, come over to the booth, kick back, chill out, and then go fire it up at the House of Blues,
Very exciting. David Ellefson, thank you so much for doing this,
You're
man.
welcome.
Really means a
You're
lot.
welcome. Right,
I'm Brandon Battick, and this is Disturbing the Priest.